Hey guys, what's going on? YouTube fam, this is your boy Jamil here, and here I am bringing you a video that I believe honestly takes precedent over the other rounds right now of the Six Samurai matches. So, for those of you who do watch my channel for a certain amount of time, know that I started doing matches and all that good stuff of new decks that I will feature. So, why does this take precedent? It's pretty important. Honestly, it's a very important discussion because not a lot of people are talking about this. And I feel like people just aren't aware of it or are just blinded by other things. I don't know. Anyway, this wasn't inspired by Team Samurai's ban list prediction video, but it did kind of have me just spark up this video by itself, because I did brush this up on a Knights of the Round Table discussion with a few other folks, and well, the video was too long, so I decided to scrap it and we wanted to redo it. But this in particular I wanted to make my own video about, because I do believe this is its own topic. So looking at the ban list prediction video, it's on the certain card that a lot of people are like, huh, about, but hey, the moment I saw this
hit. The next card I want to talk about, this card is going to be a shocker to you guys, but I truly believe that it's time for a card like this to finally go. Get ready for it. Get ready. Drum roll. Drum roll. Okay. Abyss Dweller.
Bravo, finally. Somebody realizes that a card like Abyss Dweller has absolutely no reason to be in this game right now. Like, again, people say it's format dependent, but honestly, Abyss Dweller cards like it are a very, very big issue in the game. Now, this is just what I feel is the biggest problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and it's a category of cards. It's just essentially uninteractive cards. Cards that, skip your opponent's turn. Cards that say you can't play the game if you're playing X or Y deck. Cards that, like I said, will just end your turn. And we all know what happens in year 2019 going into 2020 when your turn gets ended. When your turn gets ended, you lose the game. That is just how that works. So this is broken down into 5 different categories. There's a difference between floodgates and cards like these, because some floodgates are good, like Artifact Lancing. It's okay. Banishing isn't really all that important, but when I was at work in the truck, I started noticing every time there's 5 very vital points. There's 5 very key, extremely important, extremely vital game elements to where if they are infringed upon in any way, you will probably lose the game, depending on what deck you are playing. And I'm going to go ahead and show off 5 different cards. One of them I don't know where it is, so I'll let you know what that is. So I'm going to showcase 5 different cards, and you should probably, you'll probably see where I'm going with this. So, that's a problem? No? How about this? And it's not the specific card, it's the type of card. Still not a problem? How about that? Maybe your deck doesn't need the graveyard. Well, does it need the extra deck? Well, too bad for you. How about now? Does it need monster effects? Yes. Okay, so these 5 key different elements. First off, this is supposed to be skill drain, but I can find it. So 5 key different elements. Very, very important game mechanics that I believe should not be infringed upon, because we're in a very, very fast game, and it's highly different from when it was 2015, 2014. These game elements are searching, special summoning, the graveyard, your extra deck, and monster effects in general. I feel like any kind of card that shuts any of these game elements down can just lose you or win you a game on its own. Now, why am I bringing this up now? Well, again, because the game is a lot faster. See, back then, cards like these weren't really supported by a board. They weren't supported by multiple negates because the game wasn't that fast. So cards like these weren't a problem. I mean, they still were a problem, but they were much more manageable because you didn't just have one turn or else you lost. and all that. You know, you could sit on your Dante and pass turn under an Abyss Dweller. You could sit on your Constructed Defense and pass turn as well. Yeah, granted, your Shaddoll monsters off Shaddoll Fusion lose their effects, but you could pass pretty confidently knowing that there is a small chance of you just getting OTK outright. And that's what these cards do now. Because the game is so fast, cards like these, anything that passes, that forces your opponent to pass turn, honestly should not be in the game because the threat of getting OTK is so high. Back then, it required, what, a perfect hand, you know, but now all you need is, what, 1 to 2 cards? 1 to 2 cards to put up more than 8,000 damage and go in. So, I know what a lot of people are going to say about cards like this, about cards like Colossus, about cards like Christia or Vanity Speed, Inspector Border, whatever, cards like Abyss Dweller, all that. Oh, you gotta play outs, man. You just gotta play outs to these cards. You know, you gotta activate that infinite impermanence. You need a aside from Chalice. You need mind controls, things like that. And that's all fair if you draw them. See, it's the same thing with that whole Max C debate. People talking about, you know, we have more counters now to Max C than what we did before. And, you know, when we get Crossout Designator, that's going to add another counter. You know what? You can have 15 counters on Max C, 15 separate counters to that card, but the fact still remains that if you do not open said out, you will lose the game. And that's how it works. That's just modern Yu-Gi-Oh! For you. Hold on one sec. Sorry guys, I'm really stuffy. So, anyway, that is just the fact of the matter. If you do not open outs of these cards, you are not going anywhere. You are not winning. At least back then you had a couple turns to try and get your outs because, again, not that big of a risk to an OTK, you know. So, I'm talking about cards like this because, as I've you know, it's in the word cards, not board, but cards. Cards that can win games by themselves need to start going. Again, if it infringes on special summoning, searching, your extra deck, monster effects, or even or the graveyard. A graveyard is highly, highly important in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! The graveyard is so important to where decks just lose the game if you don't have one. If you don't have access to grave effects, you can't really do anything. That's why cards like Macrocosmos, you know, Dimensional Fissure are limited, and all that. So, the difference between a board and these is it takes an entire deck dedication and a dedication to the entire extra deck to really put a stun on the opponent. But these certain matchups, like let's say this, 6 Samurais and Necrons, if my opponent goes first and literally just summons Colossus and that's it and passes, they win. If, you know, you are playing, let's say, Sea for Thunder, if you're playing, not Orcus because they're playing Imperm, if you're playing a highly special summon reliant deck and something like this gets put up or Inspector Porter gets put up, you lose. That's just how it works. If your deck has all kinds of monster effects, you want your deck to be as consistent as possible, and a Mystic Mind gets played, you lose. That's how that works. If you are playing Orcus and have absolutely no way to, or just any grave-based deck, if you're playing a deck that really needs its graveyard and Abyss Dweller gets put up, you lose. You know, Salamangreat, it depends on the hand. It really depends on the hand with Salamangreat, but you get the idea, man. Like, these cards also make unbreakable boards. They make boards unbreakable because of just the player actions that it restricts. How many times have you played against a Salamangreat player and you see them, like, let's say, send a Rage to the graveyard, so you assume they have Roar in their hand already, and you assume you have to fight through 2 of those and a hand trap. You look at your 5-card hand, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be difficult. You know, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but I think I can break this board. But an Abyss Dweller gets put up, and that situation just became unwinnable just like that. Because, you know, I could play around this stuff if I had access to my graveyard. And a lot of decks really need access to the graveyard to be able to play through boards. You know, people talk about these unbreakable boards and player interaction, but cards like these do not promote player interactions. And again, I'm not just talking about these in specific. I'm talking about cards like it as well, like Silent Graveyard for the graveyard, cards like Droll and Lockbird. That still needs to be addressed at some point. Joel Lockbird, Skill Drain, Goes and Match, Rivalry of Warlords, There Can Only Be One. Those cards restrict extra deck and special summoning too, because if you're not playing a deck of all fiends, or all fires, you are not going into your extra deck to make that Nightmare Phoenix to blow up the Gozen or Rivalry. And if chances are you're playing a mono type deck, so you're not going to make that Nightmare Phoenix anyway. Tough luck, man. So I guess you're not playing the game at all. And again, if your deck doesn't lose, let's say, to Colossus, if your deck doesn't really rely on searching that much, I guarantee you it needs a special summon. If it doesn't even need to do that, I bet you it needs its graveyard. Even if all of this isn't true, I bet you it needs its monster effects. Almost bet you. So, the only deck that really doesn't fall to, like, all 5 of these kind of things that stops monster effects, again, this is Skill Drain. The only deck that really doesn't fall to this is Inspector Mortar decks, and nobody likes playing against that deck for a very good reason. But there is a very, very good reason why decks like True Dracos and Thunder Dragons are considered rogue slayers, like the big rogue killers, because, rogue decks need to search, they need to activate their monster effects to really do anything. That's really how rogue decks function nowadays outside of Grand Maju. So, that's the thing with this, man. Cards like it, just cards that just say neither player or your opponent cannot do something involving these 5 game elements. And okay, I will go ahead and also include cards like Red Reboot, because as a lot of you know, I am a combo player, and even I know if Red Reboot resolves against a back row deck, I win the game 100%. And that also, I'll also include things like Imperial Order and the Tree Beast, because spell cards are also really important depending on the deck. If you're playing a deck like Sky Strikers, or if you're playing a ritual deck like Necros, or a fusion deck like, let's say, Fry for Fluffles, things like that. I'll also include cards like that in as well, because no spell cards is also a pretty damn big deal. You're playing a deck like Prank Kids, you can't activate no field spells, no polys, no Prank Kids pranks, or any of that. Nope. So, that's my gripe, man. I feel like if you take cards like these out of the game, we can have a lot more interaction. Because cards like these don't promote interaction. And I know a lot of people are going to say, you need Abyss Dweller for decks like Orcus and stuff. But hey, goes to show when you have cards like DD Crows and things like that, Ghost Bells and Skullmeisters that can essentially still interact with Graveyard without shutting it down, you can still get the job done. There are alternatives to dealing with these tier 1 decks. The problem is we're just spoiled. We're just incredibly spoiled, and we're used to just win buttons, essentially. Just, I push one button, I end my opponent's turn, it's my turn, win the game. We're so used to that now to where that's now the norm. We're used to being able to just, hey, we just got 2 more win buttons in the form of Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru, to where, hey, I don't really have to try and play around the board. I don't really have to try and navigate my way around the board piece by piece. I can just now just slap one card down, and there you go. Again, we're just very, very spoiled. But honestly, I truly believe cards like this, cards that shut down special summoning, the graveyard, monster effects, spell cards, things like that. Again, I'm guilty of these cards. You see me play Christia in a lot of my videos. You see me play the Tree Beast. You see me play Utopic Zexal in a lot of videos. These cards should not exist in any capacity if you want an interactive game that promotes more interaction. If we take these cards out of the game, we can have that interaction-based game again. We can start breaking boards a lot easier when we don't have to deal, with floodgates that cut our hand size in half. We could have been and broke those Danger Thunder boards with the Hieratic Seal, the Hot Red, the 38, if Colossus wasn't thrown in the mix, cutting your hand size from 6 down to 2, or 6 down to 3, just because 3 cards in your hand add cards from your deck to your hand. Things will be so much easier if cards like these weren't restricting player interaction, or player action, not even the player interaction. These are just cards that says, you cannot do this, So, again, what do you guys think about this? I really feel that it's finally time for cards like these that restrict very, very vital game elements that make a deck function. I feel like it's finally time to start dealing with cards like these, you know, because there's a reason why cards like Lithosagem are still banned, and I hope Lithosagem never comes back because, again, being able to affect the extra deck turn 0 is pretty strong. Surprise, surprise. Now, again, I'm talking about cards that affect game elements that, if they're infringed upon, can just end your turn. You can't afford to pass turn in 2019. See, people think they need cards like this to, quote-unquote, slow decks down, but they don't slow these decks down, they shut them down. And people are really getting that message misconstrued to where slowing decks down and shutting them down are the same thing. This is why cards like Shockmaster are still banned, because they don't slow decks down, they shut them down. You know, people are, for the past 2 years, have been looking at and been talking about enablers, but people haven't been looking on the opposite side of the spectrum to where, you know, we're all focused on cards that enable decks, but we're not at all looking at cards that shut decks down at the same time. Again, any singular card that has the ability to shut down an entire deck should not be in the game if you want a more interactive game. That's all I'm saying. So that's my 2 cents about that, guys. Again, I feel like this is really important. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this. A lot of people are probably going to dislike this video for a very good reason because, like I said, you guys are probably spoiled. You're probably used to just shutting decks down with one card, you know, since Master Rule Force Inception. But again, we need to move past one card shut your deck down, one card end your turn. And we need to, you know, remove all of that out so we can have trade-ins more and more, you know, so we can have these trade-offs. So that's it for me, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and I am signing out.